All right, this is Project Herpetoculture podcast. I'm your host, Roy Arthur Blodgett, joined as always by the dashing and charismatic Philip Leitz of Arids Only. And we have an awesome guest that I'm excited to introduce today and get into the show. But before we do, I'm going to go through our standard housekeeping as always. And first, I want to give a shout out to Charlie. It was just his birthday yesterday, and he is still recording or going through and pouring over our recordings and fixing them up so that our listeners can enjoy them. So thanks to Charlie for that. And
I heard that,
of course.
I heard that Charlie beat Chuck Norris in a street fight.
You know, usually we don't talk about that, but yeah, it's true. I was there. I was on the streets of Oakland.
Whoa.
Anyway, Charlie will know that reference. Anyway, so also want to give a shout out to Dylan and the Animals at Home Network for hosting our show. It's a pleasure to be part of this network. And of course, I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors. So we've got Custom Reptile Habitats, and they make some of the best PVC HDPE reptile enclosures you could possibly desire. And we have an affiliate link for them posted in our bio. And if you need a new enclosure, and if you make a purchase through that link, we'll receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. We've also got Cold Blooded Caffeine, and they roast premium quality coffees from all over the world. And we have a private label with them, the Project Herpetoculture. It's a single origin light roast from Rwanda. It's delicious. And check them out. They've got a whole bunch of way better than Starbucks, way better than Pete's. Give them a try. And they got a whole bunch of different coffees, a whole bunch of different affiliates. And no matter what you order from them, if you put in our code Project Herp, you'll get 10% off. So yeah, enjoy some delicious coffee. And lastly, we have Fairy Tale Dragons. That is Heather Moy and Ron St. Pierre, truly legends in our field. And I feel really honored that they have chosen to support our show. So shout out to them if you're in the market for some outstanding quality bearded dragons or some other rare, obscure, amazing herpetofauna like the Nauticondro, which is not for sale, but you should still look up what that is. Check them out. And then the last thing, if you want to support the show directly, we're always welcoming subscribers on Patreon. We really appreciate the support there. Helps us keep the lights on here, helps us cover the cost of equipment upgrades, which are soon on the way, hopefully. And we've got some other fun and exciting announcements coming up here soon, but I'm going to save those for when they're a little bit closer and a little bit more locked in. So with all of that, I am pleased to introduce a guest for the show today, and that is Brendan. Brendan, how do you pronounce your last name correctly?
Hettinger.
Hettinger, okay.
Yep.
I'm glad I didn't say it because I would have said Hettinger. So Hettinger, okay.
It goes either way.
It works. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh yeah. So I want to make sure that we kind of give you a proper intro to our listeners who might not be familiar with kind of what you do and like what your background is. So I'm going to like run down the list here. You correct me if I miss anything or mess anything up. So you're obviously a keeper. You have your own collection, a private collection of interesting and unique herps that we'll talk about, right? You worked for the Denver Zoo for how long?
Almost a year, about 10-ish months.
10-ish months. You work for Coparks?
I'm a steering committee member for Colorado Partners in Reptile Amphibian Conservation.
Whoa. You do some work with venomous snakes here in Colorado, correct?
Yep. Doing rattlesnake training and monitoring.
Right. And then you are in school for
zookeeping technology. It's an associate's at Pikes Peak Community College in Colorado Springs.
Yeah. And far and away, way cooler than any of those things, you work for me, right? You help me out at the shop. And
all
then
the time.
Yep, every day, killing it. And you are only how old?
I'm 21.
Damn, dude. That is quite the resume for 21. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
Impressive.
It's really badass. That's awesome, man. So before we get into too much nitty gritty and really like dive into some of the details and the wildness here, can you tell us like how herpetoculture started for you? And like that can be, kind of interpret that as you will, but like, a lot of folks have like sort of like an origin moment or like an origin experience that was like, oh my God, reptiles and amphibians. And some people, it was with them for their entire life. And then some people choose to interpret that as like when they actually started keeping. But I'm kind of curious how you interpret that question and how you'd answer.
Yeah. So I guess a good way to answer that is, how did I get into just animals in general? Since before I could walk and talk, I was, watching Steve Irwin on Animal Planet all the time. Even when I was a toddler and all the way up into middle school, when they kept playing his shows, I was watching that, and we always had fish at my house. So that kind of like really got me involved in animals. And when I was younger, I was just always seeking more and more knowledge of just animals in general. I didn't really get kind of focused on herps until maybe it was like around third grade. I got my first pet reptile, which was a bearded dragon. Yep, lizard. My parents wouldn't let me get a turtle or tortoise, so kind of had to go that route instead. So then, yeah, I got that as my first reptile, and it just kind of exploded from there. And I got more fascinated with other herps. I don't like to be scared of anything, and I was a little uncomfortable around snakes. So wow. I kind of, it was just like, I'd hold them and stuff, but I wasn't super comfortable. So that's something that I just I got like really into and learned a lot about. And now I'm obsessed with snakes.
That's really trippy. That's so interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that they were like a little uneasy around snakes, so I just started jacking around with them more. That's real. Yeah, that's a cool response, man. Why do you think you had that particular reaction to them? Because I imagine you liked them either way, right?
Right. Like I loved like catching garter snakes, but some of like the big bull snakes that we have here in Colorado, they can be intimidating sometimes, and sure. It definitely make people second guess. And I was like, oh, I want to be able to appreciate the snake a little bit more and have a better understanding. And that just kind of threw me into this never-ending search for more information about snakes and just learning their behavior and their habitat. And now I'm go out looking for snakes almost every weekend.
Right. Yeah. Wow. What do you think? I'm curious. Was there a point when you realized that you could make this a career, or obviously, so obviously you worked for the zoo and you're doing work with co-parks and some other stuff, and you got all these other things, these kind of irons in the fire, which is really, really good. But like, was there a moment, like, do you remember thinking that you always wanted to do something with animals, or was there a moment where you were like, no, actually I can do this. Like there's something in this that I can do. I realize it's an option, so I'm going to do it. Or was there no question in your mind that's kind of what you were going to get up to?
Well, I guess for as long as I could remember, I always wanted to be a zookeeper. So animals has always been a passion, and, herps is just kind of like, I figured that out. That was my primary focus later on. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of brought me where I am today. Like there's been a couple different times in my life where I've like kind of been exposed to different opportunities and was like, wow, I'm making money from this. Like just going out and either looking for snakes, doing surveys for snakes, or what, doesn't matter what. And it's just it's pretty amazing to kind of be at this point now where it's like, yeah, my whole life kind of revolves around herps now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. That's interesting. So how did you end up, let's see, multiple part question. And then I want to ask you about your own private keeping, but how did you end up working for the Denver Zoo? And then subsequently, how did you end up working with co-parks and all that whatnot?
Okay. Yeah. So they actually kind of tie into each other a little bit. So how I got my job at Denver Zoo is I was a volunteer for 7 years, and I didn't even get into the herp department until my last my last year, because of other volunteers prior that kind of messed that up. They were not showing up, not communicating with the zookeepers, and I just went to a Turtle Survival Alliance event. Met some of the keepers. Troy Bumgardner was kind of the guy that got me in, and we've been in touch ever since. And he helped me get into Tropical Discovery, which is the reptile house at Denver Zoo. He just helped me get in there. I met everyone. He told me, and another zookeeper that I became good friends with told me to apply for the internship. That was last year, because they started having paid internships, which is pretty uncommon for zoos. And then they ended up being short-staffed really quickly after that. And they hired me on as a temporary keeper, which is pretty special. Especially because I got to work with venomous snakes at Denver Zoo, which is something that I'm not aware of that they've done with temp keepers or interns before. So that was really, really amazing, and kind of it changed a lot of opportunities for me. But I guess to answer the next part of how I got involved with Copark, I was working at the zoo, and I met this rhino keeper. He works with the black rhino and the hippo there, Mahali and Rudy. Those are their names. And he runs this conservation organization called the Katie Adamson Conservation Fund. And we became really good friends. And I went to Costa Rica in 2019 for about 2.5 weeks. Saw all kinds of herps. It was primarily focused on doing sea turtle conservation work, so just relocating nests, releasing sea turtles, taking data on the hatch rate, when they hatched, temperature, and humidity. And then there were some other projects that we got involved in as well down there. But really, when I got back through a mutual friend, they followed me on Instagram, my friend Sean. And he was part of the steering committee for Copark, and he reached out to me and was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And I was like, "Yeah, if you ever want to go looking for herps sometime," when I had no idea how to look for herps at the time in Colorado, like I could maybe find a bull snake or a garter here and there. He said that, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, let's meet up. I got some rattlesnake dens to go to," and we just kind of hit it off from there. We became really good friends, and that really started my herping career, I guess you could say. And he was involved with Copark. I loved what they were doing. They just get like families and communities involved in going out and doing surveys and herping for all kinds of herps, and we give that data back to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, which just kind of it's kind of a cool way to give back, because they give us our permits to handle stuff, and we can use that throughout the season, so we don't get in trouble for handling snakes on the road or something like that. Yeah, so that's just kind of how that got me involved with Copark, which was really strange.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Amazing.
Well,
I'm curious about. Sorry to cut you off, Phil. But I'm curious about where did you do the sea turtle work in Costa Rica? Which org was it? Do you remember?
It was the Osa Conservation Center in the Osa Peninsula.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Terrible place to be.
Yeah, right.
I love the Osa. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing, but no AC is a little rough. Or fans.
Yeah.
Definitely takes a toll.
Yeah. Definitely. It's hot and humid. I did a sea turtle conservation thing but it was only just for a couple of weeks, but it was on the Caribbean side. So I was just curious if it was the same place. I know there's a lot down there, but yeah. What were you going to ask, Phil?
Yeah. So I was going to ask, you said that you didn't do a whole lot of, you didn't really do any field herping or anything before you started doing those surveys. What was that learning process like for you?
Yeah.
Going from, I've never really looked for herps before, now like I'm just technically getting paid to do so. So like, was it research? Was it trial and error? Was it guidance? Was it all of the above? How did all that go?
Well, I'm not paid by Copark. That's just it's all volunteer. But being part of Copark helped me get involved with another organization that did pay me to do some other herp stuff. But like, it's not that I wouldn't really go out. It's just I would kind of stay more local, more in my area, and kind of go to creeks and stuff like that near water and look around. So that was like kind of my world. And then meeting these people like expanded it to more Southeast Colorado, or just Northeast Colorado, or Western Slope, which is a really hard area to herp. And that kind of experiencing that was more of just asking a bunch of questions, trying to meet everyone I could, not asking where spots were, of course, just asking like, what do they look for in ideal habitat, and like times a day, just times a year too, in general. And just if I could get out with them and learn from them. And that was kind of the biggest thing that really, that upped my game for herping.
Interesting. Very cool. And what, and so you're, I want to also make sure we don't gloss over your own private keeping. So can you talk a little bit about kind of what your own private keeping looks like, and where your passions with that lie, and kind of why?
Yeah. So I guess I should probably kind of start off with my projects, or more of my animals that are currently projects that I have multiple individuals of. It'd be my Egyptian tortoises. I currently have 9 individuals. And then I have 3 rubber boas. I have a pair of rhino rat snakes. And then I have some hog noses and bull snakes that I use for education for Copark. Those aren't necessarily project animals, but if I produce a few in the future and donate them to friends, that'd be ideal. But I guess, so my real passion is with turtles and tortoises. That's like my main thing. I love turtles and tortoises. I always have. That's kind of how why I went to Costa Rica to do sea turtle work down there. I got involved with a company here called Adaptation Environmental Services. And I was a volunteer there before I started getting paid to do other things. But we did a project with the Army Corps of Engineers reached out to us. They're like, hey, we're going to clear this drainage area from this big reservoir. And there's a bunch of turtles in there. So we went out. It was, it was like early April. Is kind of when we started going out there, and we caught over 60 Western painted turtles. There's no conservation need for them or anything, but it was this little kind of drainage spillway that you wouldn't really think there's a bunch of turtles or really anything in there. And we found all kinds of other like fish and crayfish and just all kinds of weird little things down there. But the turtles we got a bunch of, which was just really surprising. And we went back later that year and continued to get a few more that they found their way in there, which I then later tracked them where we released them for about a year after. We notched them all to identify them, which I think it could have turned into a really good project. It was just that this reservoir was really far away from where I lived, and it being volunteer and with no pay makes it really difficult to continue that kind of work.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, understandably.
For sure, you got to get paid, dude.
Yeah.
And so, what are your do you still aspire to do zookeeping work, or what do your goals look like now? Now that you have so much, nearly a decade of experience helping out with the Denver Zoo at 21, which is remarkable. And now that you are doing so much of this other work, whether it's through Coparks or working for me, plus school, and you do so much field herping, have your aspirations changed as a result of all of that?
Yeah, that's it's kind of interesting. I keep thinking about that myself. I'm not entirely sure what direction I really want to continue going in or not. I kind of like bouncing around and seeing what works. I just kind of like to see how things play out. Zoo jobs don't really open that much. So that kind of gives me some time to experiment and see what I like and what really works out, and how that kind of just influences me more in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But,
nice.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it all figured out at 21. You still got a lot of time to
That's not
experiment and figure out what you really want to do. At least I hope that's true.
Yeah. Which, like, I always wanted to be a zookeeper, and I did that, and that opened up a lot of doors that I was like, maybe this is kind of something else that I'd thrive in a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's
when it
good.
comes to like the field work that you're doing with like Copark and stuff, you mentioned rattlesnakes. Obviously, I love rattlesnakes, and I'm curious to hear a little bit more about what that looks like. I'm assuming you're working with Viridis, right? Is that the only species out where your project range is, or?
So there's, like, for Copark, we do like a survey down in Southeast Colorado every year in Otero County. So we have Viridis and Western Massasauga. Those don't really, like, Copark's work really isn't revolved around that. It's just more of just locating individuals and just marking where we saw it and the day and time. We just use iNaturalist to take some data and upload that and give that to CPW. It's very simple and easy for other people to do it. But through other work, I got involved with doing some rattlesnake monitoring up on North and South Table Mountain, which there's some papers out on that. Yeah, there's a bunch of dens up there, really cool snakes. We used to do rattlesnake relocations here in Colorado, so we'd release a lot in that area. If that's the area they were from, we'd get a lot from those houses, because we wouldn't relocate snakes we try to keep them within a mile of where we got them, because we found that the survivability of those snakes dropped dramatically. It decreased to a 90% fatality rate once you exceeded a mile, which I'm sure you know. But
it's good for them to know, the listeners to know.
Yeah, it's just it was really interesting, and it really made me fall in love with just Viridis. Everyone kind of bashes on Viridis for being so common, but I love them. I've been fortunate enough to find not to find, but to be with a group of people that found a Viridis that was patternless, had two different colored eyes. It was like kind of a goldish yellow and then a bluish green eye. Its tongue was pink, which their tongues are normally like kind of black, or like just black. And we tubed the little guy, and its underside was kind of it was purple. It was super odd, super strange individual. It was cool to kind of see a special individual of a species that I really enjoy. But
they're such a cool species. They feel like one of the more iconic rattlesnake species to me, just in terms of like kind of like the the pop culture image of a rattlesnake. It's like, I feel like Viridis and Western Diamondbacks are kind of like the two that really occupy that like Western rattlesnake, classic image in my mind. And especially like when you see these images of like the big high volume den sites, in like places like Montana and Wyoming, where you've got like a huge volume of snakes. It's just so cool.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. We don't have any like super dens along the Front Range that I've been able to find like that. But we do have some in the mountains that I've heard of like some really big super dens up near like Steamboat or somewhere up in the mountains, which I really want to see, but I don't think I'll ever be able to get up there on that ranch property. But there's some super dens kind of out west a little bit that I've heard of. That the Massasauga is also kind of den near the Viridis as well, which is really interesting. So hoping to get out there someday, but we'll see.
That's so cool. Yeah, I don't really think that like my experience is largely with Northern Pacific, so the Crotalus oregonus, and I know a lot of den sites in Herpetoculture, but I don't know of any that are like these like high volume den sites like that. I don't even know if they occur really out here. Not that I'm aware of, but I always just think about like, especially like those sites. It's like a sacred site, within the culture, the cosmology of those snakes. They're inheriting these sites over generations and generations, and it's like, especially when there's a huge volume of snakes like that, it makes me wonder, like, how long have these animals been using this site? It's probably a long time. It's really cool to think about that kind of thing.
Yeah, super fascinating.
Yeah.
What you guys both mentioned the whole, or I guess you didn't both mention it, but you both kind of have alluded. I know Brendan mentioned it, and then Roy has mentioned this in other conversations, that like you mentioned the mortality rate when you move out past a mile from where you find them. What do you guys think is going on there? What do you think is what's the speculation around why that is the case?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be involved in some rattlesnake tracking on some private property, and we put trackers on individuals, and I used telemetry to try and find these guys. And we were only finding that they were moving, if they moved, maybe a couple meters or so a day. So I don't think that their home range like is very big, because they don't need to go very far to find prey. But we have seen with individuals that are in higher elevations, they will migrate over long distances to go to areas where they feed. So I wonder if it's just kind of different, because in the higher elevation ones, I'm sure that they might do a little bit better. They probably know more of their surroundings, but I think they do have a general idea of what's around them and where they live.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's more or less my understanding as well. It's just that they become disoriented, and I think that also sometimes I've heard of some accounts of snakes like essentially in that state of disorientation, like succumbing to exposure, essentially, because they just they're trying to figure out where they are. They're trying to kind of get a beat on what's going on, and they're super vulnerable in that state, of course. And rattlesnakes seem especially vulnerable to exposure. It's like you wouldn't think it, but like in a lot of these, because they inhabit so many hot, arid environments, but like Brendan said, they tend to occupy these really small little home ranges, and they know exactly where their spots are, where they need to cool down, where they need to find food and set up an ambush. And if they don't know where those things are, they're just kind of sitting ducks, and so they can die from just the heat, or from being vulnerable to predators. And but all that said, I do wonder about like whether or not their chances are I think that there's some speculation that their chances of survival beyond a mile are probably much higher if they're released into like suitable habitat composition. But I don't know that there's enough like robust like study behind that to really back it at this point. I think it's more speculative than anything. And I definitely feel like, there's certain areas where I can go to and I can just see like an individual rattlesnake or a couple individual rattlesnakes that I know just live within this like 20-foot radius, and that's just, they're there all year, every day of the year. I could go there and pick them out. So
wild.
They're a lot more stationary than people realize a lot of the time.
It's so weird because, there are so many conversations around like invasive herps, in various contexts. And it's so weird to think about why, some animals you move them and it's like death sentence, and some animals you move them and it's like, oh, that's fine. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's totally weird. And you think about it, like even something that's highly adaptable, like that doesn't, say something other than a rattlesnake that maybe, has more flexibility in its capacities than that. The odds of, you release an animal and the odds of that thing doing okay feels so infinitesimally small, because it's so hard. There's so many reasons why it might die, whether it's, weather, whether it's predation, whether it's not being able to find the right foods. You name it. Right. And it's wild that there are so many invasive species in certain places. Like it's just like, how, it really does make you wonder about the sort of like the origins of all of that. We've heard so many different stories about how that happened. It's like, well, these were import facilities and there was a hurricane and the hurricane destroyed these import facilities and like huge numbers got out. So it was more likely that some of them pulled through. Then you hear rumors about people intentionally releasing stuff in certain places, intentionally trying to set up actual populations, for one reason or another. And I don't have any real idea of I don't really have a formal opinion on any of that stuff. I mean, I'm curious, Brendan, what do you think?
Like what's, I guess more, what are you?
Just answer the damn question.
Yeah, right. No, I'm totally
I'm just kidding.
So I guess I'm kind of a little bit confused on your question. So you just asking how do some species just thrive better than others? And
I meant, just sort of a little bit more broad, right? So what do you think contributes to why certain things seem to manage to take hold in certain places, and why do you think that others are so just struggle so much? What do you think's going on there?
Well, I think there's probably a whole bunch of factors, like if the species is a specialist or generalist, if it's released in the right maybe microhabitat, because I'm sure you could release rattlesnakes elsewhere in different locations and they would do fine. But I know that we've been finding that individuals from other rattlesnake dens, if they're moved to a new den, would kind of be chased out by some of the others because some of them kind of recognize each other, which is just interesting. So I think there's just so many factors, because Viridis are kind of considered a generalist here in Colorado because you can find them in almost every county in the state. But they just require so much more than we know, and just herps in general. Because you could release something that you think would do well, like a Russian tortoise. They on CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, their website, they say you're not supposed to really have or sell Russian tortoises because they fear they could become an invasive species. Bunch of people have them. PetSmart and Petco still sell them. They're everywhere, but there's no population of them yet, or maybe never yet. Maybe not yet or ever. That's just it's kind of interesting. But
no, that's super interesting. You've mentioned that before. You've mentioned this several times in our conversations at the shop that man, I bet Russian tortoises would do great living here outside all year round. And I'm just man, that's an interesting prospect. I never really thought about it that way. I guess they probably could, huh?
Maybe.
Don't try it.
Right.
Unless it's contained. But that's really intriguing. So another thing I'm really curious about is you have your foot in all these doors, right? You have such a diversity of experience, especially for some, I know I've said this a couple of times, but especially for someone your age, I feel like we, there's going to be a lot of things I say here. So feel free to respond to any one of them and feel free to cut me off if you want. Right. I feel like we have we're living in such an interesting time in herpetoculture. I just had a conversation with Dylan at the Animals, our host network, the Animals at Home Network this morning. And we were talking about how I said that I think right now is the best time to be a herpetoculturist in a lot of ways. Right. And I think that, you surprise me a lot in the way that you think about all of this stuff, because, when I think about a 21-year-old herper right now, I'm thinking that they're going to be sucked into the YouTube rabbit hole and the TikTok rabbit hole and try to be just getting as much clickbait and whatever. But not only are you not like that, but you have a very well-rounded perspective on this whole thing. And you have a lot of really cool friendships that you've formed through all of this stuff, which is something that I've got lots of friends in herpetoculture and stuff like that, but I don't think I have as many as you do. And so I think it's an interesting place to be. And with all of that said, are there ways that you can point to that all of the different work that you do, that you have done in all the different capacities has affected the way you keep?
I would say, yeah. So yeah, I would definitely say so. Yeah. But yeah, I would agree that right now it's a great time to be in herpetoculture, depending on what you're keeping. Right now, it's kind of tough for Egyptian tortoise keepers.
Come on.
But it's
great.
it's super interesting. Like there's a lot of people working with cool things and trying to diversify all the herps that we have. But I think as like keepers in general, that we should be doing more, and just like getting involved in some of the legislation or some of the conservation organizations that are in our states. Something kind of interesting with Copark is CPW kind of asks us some questions and what we think regarding what species maybe should or shouldn't be collected in the state. So they're kind of coming to us, asking us stuff on what we think. And there's like two others that are like actual keepers, and we're the ones that are kind of more responsive and are giving our opinions because we are going out and herping, but we also keep stuff, and we know that we probably shouldn't have everything that we want in the state, but there's some things that are regulated that maybe shouldn't be because they're a little silly, like in Colorado the hognose law, which is just kind of, yeah, it's silly in itself. But I think yeah, herpetoculture is great, but I think we should be doing more in regards to not just keeping, but we need to look at it at many different angles, because right now everything's great, but maybe not 10 years from now or so. It's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, definitely from my other experiences, it's influenced how I keep things, because people think, oh, you're just going to get a snake and put it in a rack or just put it in a tub and stuff like that. And I try to, which there's nothing wrong with that. They have their place for sure. But I like to keep things in, I like to give them as much space as I can. I like to give them UVB and basking bulbs and the opportunity to try and perform as many natural behaviors as possible. And that definitely makes a difference. I feel like when other people, like researchers and stuff, see how you keep things. I think it's played a major role, especially like just going out and like looking at how herps behave. That's kind of influenced how I keep, how I mess with heating and lighting and temperatures and stuff like that for keeping. But
yeah. One thing I'm curious about with that is like so in your personal keeping trajectory, has it kind of evolved more toward more complex and offering more kind of like opportunities for natural behavior from a once simpler style, or has it always been like that's kind of been your aim from the outset?
Yeah, no, it's definitely evolved from a more simple to more complex. There's a lot of things I want to do, but necessarily can't because I don't have the money or maybe space. But it definitely kind of changes how I look at things and what I want to work with. Like I have box turtles outside that I keep outside all year, and they do great, and I love that. I love to be able to get things outside. So that's something I kind of want to focus on in the future.
Yeah, it's super gratifying to be able to do stuff outside. That's another thing I want to try here. Although, like I say that, like right now, and it's like toxic air quality outside, and I'm like, okay, no.
Right.
It's like really bad wildfire smoke. But one thing I'm curious about that with like is like aside from like the obvious benefits to like the herps themselves, kind of taking on a little bit more complex. Right. Have there been changes for you too as a keeper? Has it felt like more beneficial, more rewarding for you as a keeper to do that? Or I'm curious just what your experience of that is.
Yeah, I'd say it definitely has. Just kind of taking on some new species or different species that, maybe I just have as a pet, right? That I'm not kind of working on as a project has been super beneficial because so many people are afraid of just herps. And for Copark, we do outreach, and I love to take animals, maybe some that aren't even from the state, or maybe that are from around the world. And just because like rubber boas, they're kind of a really easy snake to introduce people to because they look like a worm. You know, I'm like, it's a little worm snake, you know, like this thing could bite you, but it's probably not
intimidating. Yeah, they're not intimidating at all.
Right.
Every time I see them, I'm like, this is like the perfect ambassador snake because they're just the dorkiest, cutest little things because they're just so innocuous.
Yeah, they're hilarious. they're great.
I love them.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're just kind of like stuff like that, and like tiny tortoises. The Egyptians are kind of great because people are always afraid of turtles, surprisingly, like biting them. If I take like a turtle or something like that somewhere, and it's like, no, it won't bite, and they're like, I want to hold the little one, not the big one, instead, because I'm afraid of getting bit. And then they kind of like work their way up, and it's super gratifying to like see people like super afraid at first, and then they're like, okay, I'm ready, I want to hold the big one. When I went to Costa Rica this year, we road cruised some species of cat-eyed snake, and everyone was like afraid of it, you know, that because it wasn't really a herp designated trip necessarily. We're going to go do some sea turtle stuff, and you know, we just had it, we were holding it, taking pictures of it, and everyone that was afraid of it was like wanting to touch it or hold it by, you know, after when we were getting ready to release it. So it was just super cool how everyone's perspective can change so fast with just a little more understanding and knowledge of these animals.
And I've always felt like rubber boas were like Rosie Boa's dumb cousin. They're cool. Super cool. I'm just throwing a little shade, you know. I think they're great. They're really cool animals, but I remember the first time I saw a rubber boa and I was like, man, what a bummer.
Honestly, I think my appreciation for them has grown more and more, you know, partially because they were one of the last snakes that I found in my home county. It was like one of the last species for me to find because they're just where I grew up. Like most of the good herping areas it's just hot. It's super hot and dry for most of the year. And so the rubber boas are, you know, being generally like in cooler temperatures and everything, they're a little bit harder to find in those kinds of environments for most of the year. But I finally have a couple like reliable rubber boa spots now. And the first time I found one, I flipped like this little piece of tin this big, and there was a whole litter of babies under it. It had like just been born. Wow. There were like 6 of them. And that was like such an exciting thing. And since then I've found a few others at that spot. I also found one that was actually kind of crushed underneath like a board, like somebody at some point had stepped on it. Wow. But I took it home and I put it in like a bin with some isopods to like clean it so I could see the skeleton. And I didn't realize, but like their tails, you know, they've got these blunt tails. Yeah. It's like a fully calcified bone club.
Really? Wow.
Like their end of their tail, it's like a bone club. It's so cool because I guess what they do is they if you ever pick up an adult rubber boa, a wild one, they've got scars all over their tail because they actually use it as a defensive thing. When the mother mouse comes and starts defending the nest as they're eating the babies, they just stick their tail in her face. She just goes to town and biting this tail. And I'm like, so every time I find an adult one, they're just covered in scars on that part of their body. But it was so cool to see like, whoa, it's actually like fully like a little mace of bone. I'll also find that skeleton and send you a picture at some point because it's really cool to look at. But
yeah, that's awesome.
They're such cool little snakes. Yeah.
What a dork of an animal. Like it's just,
I know.
Like their defense is just stick their ass in your face. It's just like to me, they're like the fake version of a Thomasai. It's like, what a derfy.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's also, like, it's hard for me to imagine them killing anything. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they just.
Oh my god,
they're hunters. They have to be.
They really do seem like a little. I mean, I don't mean to be hating on them because I really do like them, and if I could find one, I'd lose my mind. But they just seem so useless. It's just like, what are you doing?
When you come out and visit, you guys both got to come out and visit. I'll take you to my rubber boa spot. Yeah. It's a cool area too. So
yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to have Brendan keep an eye on the shop, maybe in January, right? Maybe for the January one we can both go, because then it's just January. It's only for a few days. Nothing's even going to be happening at the shop. Actually, I say that, but as Brendan knows, there's a hell of a lot of Euro babies there right now. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe more of them.
Who knows? January also might be a hard time to find rubber boas, although because they're so cold tolerant, they might actually be possible to flip some. I'm not sure.
What do you
I haven't tried in January. I don't know much, man.
Yeah, I know. Me neither. Well, okay. So I have a few other things I want to ask you, Brendan. I'm curious. So from the perspective of someone who is your age, sort of your generation of herper, right? Which is like about 15 years younger than my generation. What would you say are some of like the more positive qualities that you see in herpers around your age bracket? And what are some of the critiques that you have for a lot of herpers around your age bracket?
Oh, that's kind of hard to say, because I don't like to that. Like a lot of herpers in Colorado are usually kind of just more focused on going out and looking for herps and don't necessarily keep, or I haven't really been able to. But I guess I've seen some others on social media and stuff. I really like how they're trying to do their own thing, like Connor Wardle, doing stuff with Masticophis and rubber boas. We talk about both of those all the time. Can't keep Masticophis here, but I can keep rubber boas. So it's kind of fun to talk to him about that. And he's doing some amazing stuff. I don't really know like anyone kind of around my age-ish that's kind of working on like Egyptian tortoises was an expensive project, but that's like a project I'm kind of working on. But it's kind of cool to see people that are younger take a step in some different species, things that are kind of more out there that you haven't really heard of before, or you wouldn't think would be a great species to keep. There's definitely, I guess, some of the downside to that is, they're mostly wild caught. And I think for a lot of people within that age group that there's a lot of people that just want to go out and collect. Not that there's anything wrong with collecting, if it's done sustainably, that's always great. But there's just some people that I know of that they just go out and they collect it, and then when they don't want it anymore, they just sell it. And
that's pervasive, bro. That's not just your generation.
I guess that goes everywhere. I just feel like, me personally, that way, if you take an animal from the wild, that you kind of have a duty, if you're going to try and reproduce it, to do that, so then there's less of a demand for people trying to get locality specific individuals and just go out and diminish the population more, which is just kind of something that I think of personally, because like looking for snakes you can cruise the same snakes over and over on roads on specific nights. They tend to have the same kind of movements and move around the same time of year. We actually had a pretty crazy find. I finally got my lifer speckled king in Colorado with one of my friends. And the crazy thing about it was they cruised that snake exactly a year, the year before. So on the same kind of night, it was like a year apart in the same snake moving across the road. So I think that's why I just think that we need to think a little bit more about when we do collect some things, because it takes a long time for that individual to be replaced in the population if it's an adult. And I've seen that happen at some spots. So that's just something that I kind of take personally, and just try to think about more so when talking to younger herpers or people, because like herping is kind of exploding in Colorado. There's a lot of new people getting into field herping, and of course you're going to want to keep something that you find, right? It's just doing it doing it ethically and thinking a little bit more about how this impacts the animal, the population, you, and future herpers. Like Phil, we went out looking for milk snakes this spring, and it was a right. And it's a pretty special spot because everyone goes there and looks for milks, and everyone respects the spot. Mostly.
Some people respect the spot.
Some people respect the spot, it's kind of known around some other herpers and stuff like that. And as long as it's like no one's, as I'm aware of, has mass collected anything. So that's, it keeps the spot going, and it keeps it fun for everyone. And just kind of, it's cool to see those same individuals year and year again, like there's some milk snakes that I've seen at some other spots that I've seen 2 years or 3 years in a row now. And it's just kind of cool to see that individual.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. You mentioned Steve Irwin earlier, and I feel like the number of people who were sort of infected by his passion, I count myself among them. I watch every day when I came home from school. That was one of the first things I turned on. And he's such a big influence on so many people. Who are some of the other people in your trajectory who have influenced you in a positive way, and why?
Okay, so I guess someone who has been a really big influence, his name is Brian Shipley. He was the former zookeeper at Denver Zoo. I've done some work with him with rattlesnakes, and he actually met Steve Irwin. He's done he totally brushed it off like it was no big deal. And my friend and I, we were totally flipping out because that's something really cool. Like, I'll never get to meet him. But kind of hanging out with Brian and getting to do some work with him is kind of like made me feel like I did get to kind of meet a piece of him in a way, because we just go out and are trying to save these species, and we're taking information. We're doing this, and he was a former zookeeper. He taught me pretty much mostly everything I know about handling venomous snakes. And it's just opened up so many doors, and just his way of thinking has changed my way of thinking about not just keeping, but herping and just life in general. He's been a really special person in my life that really he didn't kind of pop in until after I was volunteering at the zoo and stuff. But he's still, like, I haven't seen him in a while. I need to get in touch with him, but he's a really cool guy who's been super influential in just my life in general. But I guess there's been another person, but I'm totally spacing on their name. It was my one of my biology teachers in high school. He was not really for herps, but just for life, because he's gone out and done all kinds of things. And some of that was with herps, some of it not so much. Some of it was dealing with like radioactive material. And he just kind of really instilled this part of me that just, go out and try everything. Go out and experience the world and like kind of experiment with stuff. So like how you experiment with stuff at the shop, Phil. I like try and experiment with some of my keeping at home. Probably not as often as I should, but it's just kind of something that's changed my perspective.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to have so many people in your life who kind of influence you in a good way. There's always, sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less, sometimes one or two people kind of take an outsized portion of that influence pie, as it were. But, sometimes it's nice. It's really cool to have so many folks who can push you to do better things and help you kind of expand the way you think about what it is that you're doing. That's great, man. Really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a few other things to ask, but I really want to try to make space for Roy before I get too deep into some of these other things.
No, it's okay. That was kind of the next question I had too, was around like influences. And and who's kind of been there. But one thing I'm curious about, moving maybe to influences that you don't want to replicate. I'm curious what it's been like to work closely with Phil.
Yeah.
Oh man, no. We've had some interesting moments for sure. But we kind of think similarly in a way, of like what is setting up when it comes to like setting up something new regarding like with the sandfish, looking for some of those microclimates that people kind of don't really expect for the species or something like that, thinking more like a fuller picture of the species rather than just in the space that it's in, or trying to change it like seasonally, trying to offer maybe some more seasonal elements throughout the enclosure if it's big enough to just see what happens a little bit. And it's been pretty interesting to see that method just be applied to everything. And working with Phil is it's changed my perspective a whole bunch of times. We debate, and it's always a good, fun, healthy debate about any topic, and it's always fun. But yeah, no, I definitely am. I've been amazed at everything that I've learned from Phil. Because coming from the zoo, right after coming from the zoo and working for Phil, my mind was more of just kind of broad care, taking care of everything, just making sure it's getting fed, the lights are on, has clean water, and that was kind of it. But Phil really changed that picture, especially for lizards. I'm not a huge lizard guy. I appreciate definitely some species more than others. So it was really unique to see just all these lizards and all his thoughts, and take that and compare it to other things I've experienced. So it's been great. Probably one of the.
No, go ahead.
No, go. Okay, well, probably one of the most conflict we've had was just with the soap. I went to the store. We needed hand soap, and then he's like, no scented soap. Right. So then I go and I get the soap, and he's like, it's antibacterial. And he's like, it's antibacterial. I don't like this stuff. And it's like, well, then what's the point of soap? So
I don't know, man. I heard that it was actually the scented trash bags that really put him over the edge.
Oh yeah. You should have seen him,
dude.
He's like, take this away.
Yeah, dude. So I come into the shop one day. And the first thing I see, the first thing when I get in there, and I'm like, oh, something smells fucking weird in here. This is so weird. I hate. Okay, this is gonna be where my bullshit justification for this is that your nose is actually a very, very important indicator of what you need to pay attention to in the shop. Because if you smell something weird, you have to investigate it. That's not untrue, right? That's especially when you've got a lot of things, right? There's you might smell foul poo that might indicate something is wrong. You might smell vomit. You might smell a dead animal if something got really weird and you didn't notice it. I feel like you really need to know. That's not really why. The scent of scented trash bags makes me want to throw up. I hate it. I hate it. It's disgusting. And I would rather smell dead animal for sure. Like it's so gross. It's so bad. And I come in and he's got these scented trash bags. And I'm like, you throw this shit out right now. You're going to you go, get this out of me. Never buy this again. Never. God damn it. And then the soap, just for the record, Brent, just for the record of the soap, one of the first things I ever had him do as an employee at the shop was pick up soap. And I said, buy unscented antibacterial soap. Now, the scent is for two reasons. That's not just for me. That's for the lizards. When you buy scented soaps and you use your hands to pull apart greens and feed greens, the animals smell it. They don't want to eat it, right? So that's just one thing. The other thing is that the scented soap, much like the scented trash bag, makes me want to throw up.
Yes.
Right? Second, the antibacterial soap, there's a few reasons why I don't want to use the antibacterial soap. One, that pushes the evolution of bacteria, what's the word? Virulent
super bacteria.
virulent pathogens, right? So because they can survive that antibacterial soap wash, then they can survive a lot of things, right? So I don't like that for one reason. Number two, we're washing our hands all the time at the shop. It's bad for your skin to constantly be ripping it with antibacterial soap. It's really bad. It dries your hands out, all kinds of stuff. And the just regular emulsive soap is enough to kill most of almost anything that we really would worry about at the shop in the first place. And so we made a compromise in that Brendan got to keep the 2 soaps that he bought that he likes. He wants his hands to smell like tangerines and apples. And and now he knows for the future to never, ever, ever buy scented soaps or trash bags.
Yep.
Dude, I love that you brought that up. I love that was the thing where you were like, the biggest conflict we ever had was over scented trash bags and soap.
Yep.
That's actually, that's a good thing. That's a good thing if that's the biggest conflict,
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
And it's pretty cool too, because, like I've voiced this to Brendan, so this won't be news to him necessarily, but dude, it is really, 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 really hard to bring someone into that part of your life and to say, hey, I'm going to trust and rely on you to take care of this stuff. It's really difficult. I mean, for, most people who work in reptiles, we all know somebody who's been held up at gunpoint for their collection, right? Something like that. We all know people who have been scammed, who are scammers, who have stolen, who will steal from you. People that will exploit a position, people that will take, this, you've spent 10, 15 years building up all this work that is represented by your facility. And then somebody comes in and puts a bunch of stinky antibacterial soap on all their food and they die. And they, but it's really, really, really hard to be able to do that. And at least in Brendan's case, I can say it was a total mind blower because he's the only person I interviewed. He was the only person who, I was like he reached out and then more than one person mentioned that he's a good guy and he showed me his resume and I was like, well, I'm just going to interview this guy. We'll see. And it turned out that he's great. He listens well. He tries to do better all the time. And, he's like the perfect guy for it. He has all this herp experience and all this herp passion, but he's not like a lizard guy. So you get more than one perspective kind of what we're doing. It's a good education opportunity for him. It's flexible with his schedule. He's flexible with my schedule and my needs at the shop too. I mean, it couldn't have worked out better. And I guess he's an okay guy. He's like a nice,
it's all right.
He's
decent company.
Yeah, he keeps rubber boas.
He can't be a bad guy if he keeps rubber boas, man.
No, rubber boas.
Well, okay, so I'm curious about this. Like, just another thing with that. Like, I mean, obviously not coming from like a lizard focus, like you said. Are there aspects of like working so focused with lizards that have influenced, like your work with your turtles and tortoises or anything like that has changed, has offered any useful insight that you could glean to apply there?
Yeah. Well, I guess like some of the other animals that I have that I didn't mention was like I have a Gila monster that maybe someday I'd like to turn into a project animal.
Just didn't even mention the Gila monster. Okay.
Yeah, I love Gilas and anything in Phrynosoma. Those two lizards are like, I love them. And it's that hasn't really changed like how I keep my Gila, but it's definitely made me think a little bit more about my tortoises, like my Egyptian tortoises, just regards on like Phil offers seeds to everything, which is just kind of interesting and wild. So it's like, I haven't tried seeds with my Egyptians or anything, but I plan to eventually and just kind of see, like, do it in moderation and see how that works. And if they go for it or not, just to see. That's kind of like been the big thing is just diet and some of the heating too. Like Phil always says, like, people think that Euros need it scorching hot, which they do like it fairly hot, but they don't need it burning all the time. So it's just kind of changed how I try to do heat for some of my herps, especially some of my sensitive herps. Like I have a male Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle, Geomyda spangleri. He can be a little heat intolerant sometimes. So I try to just really fluctuate the temperature with him seasonally, keep it cooler in the winter and bump it up during the summer. And he's an awesome turtle. I want to find him a female so bad. But they're just kind of things like that is just heating and just dietary, just trying weird things.
That's such an interesting question, Roy. I'm glad you asked that because I definitely wouldn't have thought to ask that question. It's funny. I do try. I'm like, let's see if this thing eats some seeds. Who knows? And it's like, I did it with the most recently that happened with the San Esteban Island iguana. I put a little seed mixture in there and he ate it right up. And I was like, well, who knew? All right.
That's a trip, man. I would not expect that at all.
I don't know. To me, it seemed like obviously, right? Like they live on that island, right? And they're sharing habitat with shucks and they're eating veg, like plant matter. Like I would imagine they're going to eat a seed pod in some way at some point for some reason, right? Like maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It certainly was, dude, the Igirnia hosmeri ate some. They ate them.
Yeah.
Which also doesn't surprise me too much. It's a little kooky, Hell, the speckeye, the Conyxus speckeye even tried to eat at some of them. We put a pile on one of the bowls and they tried to eat it up and eat that stuff. And that also isn't a huge surprise, but it is in the Xenogama, right? I've posted about this on my Instagram. The Xenogama will eat little bits of seeds and millet, and I found it out just by sprinkling a little bit on a stone. And then, lo and behold, a few days later, it comes out in their turds. And it's like, yes, what the hell?
It's so interesting to me. Because I think maybe in part of my bias too is that a lot of the stuff I keep is more insectivore focused, and but the Polychrus will eat fruit, and stuff like that. They're kind of picky with what they want, but they'll accept it sometimes. But then I was just talking to somebody who specializes in Xanthusia or the Xanthusidae, the night lizards. And it's like you would never think that Lepidophyma, in some parts of their range, a huge part of their diet is figs.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, but it's like there are diet studies on them, and for a huge part of their diet this part of the year when there are ripe figs on the ground, they're just eating figs. And this person, he offers his figs and they gobble them right up, and it's like I would never think that a little Lepidophyma flavomaculatum or a Smithii or whatever would accept fig, but they do. And then it makes me think maybe I should try that with my Xenosaurus. Maybe they would eat something like that. Who knows? I kind of doubt it, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
So, and then things with the Peruvianus, the Polychrus peruvianus, I think there's one good diet study out there on them. And it's almost it's a huge percentage of their diet was leaves, green leaves, and in captivity they don't eat them. I don't know of anyone who keeps Peruvianus, any of the zoos that keep them. We've all tried all kinds of different plant material and they pretty much ignore it, and they're exclusively insectivores. But at least this one wild population where this study was performed, they're eating leaves primarily.
Wow. On that same note, there's been some interesting, Brendan's had a few weird thoughts every now and again where he'll be like, oh, I wonder if the speckeye would eat these snails. I'll be like, give it a shot, throw it in there, see what happens. I feel like that's an interesting thing that you point that out, man, because I really do feel like diet stuff is one area where I tend to be totally fly by the seat of my pants. I'm like, let's just give it a shot, right? Like today, you missed this one, Brendan, because you weren't here today. Bullshit, dude. Taking days. I'm kidding. A wasp flew in and was sitting like a yellow jacket, was just sitting right next to a Thomasite cage. And I kind of hit it with what was it? It was like a deli cup that I had in my hand, and I kind of hit half of it. And so the wasp was still kind of alive. And I tossed it in with the sandfish, gobbled it right up. Sandfish just wolfed that thing right down. And I've done that a bunch of times with the Xenogama, because wasps fly in all the time because they smell stuff inside the shop, and they'll fly in and hit the UV lights, and they're really easy just to grip with a pair of tongs. Just grab them with tongs. It's super easy. And I've thrown them in with the Xenogama, and they'll eat them. I threw one in with the Pilbara, the female Pilbara rock monitor today. She wolfed it down. I mean, they were like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go.
Nice.
Sandfish ate it. There's been all kinds of weird stuff that we've tried. It's like, I wonder if it'll be, and it's kind of cool because, Brendan comes in and he'll ask a question, and I'll be like, man, I never really thought about that. I don't know, give it a shot, go for it. And I, I feel like that's one way. I mean, a lot of people might not do that because they might be afraid of messing something up. And I just feel so confident that's like, dude, if the kid's not good for them, they're not going to eat it. Like, it's very unlikely they're going to eat like antifreeze, obviously that's kind of a bad joke, but like, this also came up on the podcast I did with Dylan this morning, which was like, I think the list of mistakes that you can make that are really detrimental or cause a lot of really big kind of irreversible problems it's pretty short list, but offering something, a novel food item or something that you would not have ever expected it to eat or, something along those lines, that's great. I mean, that's just that's just info. That's just data. I mean, it's very unlikely that it's going to hurt them, in any way.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's been fun to see the ways that Brendan will present something that's novel to me, where it's like, I never thought about it. Let's give it a shot. Go for it. Why not? Like, give it to him. What's going to happen? What's the worst that could happen? I mean,
it's also, I also feel like it speaks to just like the value of having other herpers coming through the shop, like just having other eyeballs on things, other brains on things, it's like, that's something that I definitely am lacking here, just being so isolated as I am with my operation. But it makes me think about like in wildlife tracking, like there's a saying that's like, it's like, if you track alone, you're always right. Because like there's no one there to question you. It's like, oh yeah, that's a raccoon track. And it's like, well, but if you're with a bunch of other trackers and you're all tracking together, someone might go, are you sure that's a raccoon track? Or like, and sometimes they're asking you that just because like they're testing you. They're like, how, like, can you explain to me how you know what you know, which is valuable, right? It's, as an exercise. But sometimes also it's like, it's a river otter track, and you just kind of like made an assumption off of like a cursory glance and moved on, and you like missed an opportunity to learn more. And I just think about the same thing applies with herpetoculture, where there's so much value to discourse with other herpers, and just especially people who are keeping different things. Like, it's interesting that you both are, you both have a relatively broad range of experience, but you also both have your focus areas where you're really dedicated. And so it makes for like really rich cross-pollination.
Yeah, it is cool. Like it just happened the other day with the harvester ants. There's a nest in the back of the shop. There's a little colony of harvester ants in the driveway, basically. Yeah. And Brendan just comes putzing around through the shop one day, and he goes, I wonder if any of the lizards would eat those harvester ants. And I was like, I thought they were fire ants. Like, I didn't know. I've always, like, being a kid, I just grew up calling those things fire ants. I didn't really realize that that's not what they were, Mm-hmm. And I just got bit by them all the time because I would try to dig them out and find a queen so I could have a queen ant in an ant farm at home. And so I'd get bit by them like an idiot. Right. And Brendan was like, no, those are harvester ants. And I was like, give it a shot. Go grab a bunch of them. He goes out there with the cup and the tongs and just pulls like a cup and shakes them up a little bit. And we fed them to the baby Xenogama, and they ate them. And we fed them we tried feeding them to the whiptails, right? And the whiptails like showed interest, but then bailed and didn't want them.
Yeah. Right? Which is kind of interesting comparing them to some of the stuff I've seen out in the field of the whiptails we have here eating harvester ants. So I was like, should work, but I wonder if the whiptails, as they get bigger, maybe they'll eat them. You know what I mean? Yeah. The ones that we saw tried to eat them were like real little babies. So I wonder if maybe they'll go nuts on, like as they get bigger or something like that. Yeah. I don't think we tried the baby Schneider skinks, right? Yeah, they went after him, I believe.
Yeah, they ate him. And
Cool.
yeah.
I don't think we tried the sandfish. Did you?
No, I did not.
You gotta try that next time. Give it a shot.
Yeah, we should.
Right. It can't hurt. Yeah, just see what happens. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun stuff. And then there have been other times where he's been right about something and I've been wrong, even about animals that I feel like like, for example, the chuckwallas, right? This one female chuckwalla that I got her eggs are like 2 weeks from hatching. And I was like, oh, we were debating for so long about whether or not the chuck was gravid. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. My gut just kind of tells me she's not gravid. I don't think so. And then, lo and behold, came in one day and she laid 9 eggs. And it's like, oh. Because the whole time, the equation I forgot there was that the whole time Brendan was like, I think she's gravid, bro. I think she's gravid. She's huge, dude. She's huge. And I'm like, Brendan, you ain't ever seen chuckwallas, dude. What do you know? You know? It's like giving him a hard time. And
you never seen a chuckwalla before?
Yeah, at least not in captivity anyway. I was like, whatever, dude, loser. No, yeah. And it was cool. It was nice to have that particular. It's nice to have the second pair of eyes and the other look and the different perspective, and it's fun. I really like when I'm wrong. It's like it's nice because you keep working, you kind of stay in your lane for a little while, and you work with the same stuff for so long. It's you miss those salient events when something does or doesn't work, or it's nice. You got to try to seek that out. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I find it super rewarding, like kind of when we do that, because most of the time I'm not right. Like I thought, oh man, this female uromastic is ovulating like again like the other one, and that wasn't the case at all. And it's always such a great learning point because I'm not a lizard guy, and it's been a wealth of knowledge to just be there and talk to Phil and see all these animals practically every day and just learn so much. It's been a great experience.
Cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you've had to learn how to wrangle some lizards when they make their way out, right? Like,
yeah, monitors always give me a hard time, even when I was at the zoo.
Oh yeah,
They're
so smart and fast, and it hurts when they bite.
Yeah, dude, even when they're tiny.
Yeah,
hurts. Yeah. Yeah, that's been fun. It's been really, really good. So I don't know if I have a whole lot else on my mind to ask, but I want to obviously leave Roy. Do you got anything else that you have for young Brendan here?
Where are we? Are we about like an hour and a half right now?
Yeah, we're right about 90 minutes.
Gosh, I'm sure there's things but I feel like this is a good start. I think that we're gonna have to have more conversations with Brennan down the road.
Yeah.
You're so young, man. You're still gonna you got a lot more to do.
That's what everyone tells me.
But it's something that you don't know because you're young and you're like, oh, I don't feel that young. And it's like, well, yeah, but you are though, and you don't know until all of a sudden you're 50 and you're like, oh shit, I guess I was kind of young, and then
I think that's something that's kind of made me a little stubborn, is like everyone tells me like for the longest time that you're too young. Like, I wanted to work at like pet stores when I was younger and they're all like, yeah, you're too young, and I always want to do and try new things. And that's just something that kind of like, I don't want age to be something that holds me back ever, so I went to Costa Rica for the first time when I was like 17 with a bunch of people that were, I think the oldest was like 18 or 19. And we went by ourselves and did all that stuff with for conservation, and just it was a great experience. And I never want kind of like age or people that see me as being young as a disadvantage.
Definitely not. Yeah. No, I totally. I was the same way when I was your age. The same thing. Like, I mean, there's so much value to getting out and experiencing things, especially when you're young, because the consequences are lower than they'll ever be. It's like you have fewer responsibilities now than you'll have when you're 31. That's just how it works, and because of that, it's like there's such a benefit to it. I have a bunch of younger siblings and I'm always trying to tell them to just do shit, just experience things, And when I was 20, I bought a one-way ticket to Prague and like ran off to Europe for a year and hitchhiked all around Europe and did a bunch of stuff. And I guess that I'm still like integrating some of the experiences I had on that trip because it was such a rich time. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's good that you're not that you're using it as motivation and fuel. Like watch me do this.
Yeah, a little bit.
And
it's good.
For the record, I think what we kind of meant by that was that like it's very likely that this is not going to be the last time we want to have you on the show, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you. I guess I'm interesting enough.
Yeah, obviously.
Oh yeah. Very much.
Obviously.
Probably have you on again and ask you a mess about your time at the zoo and kind of how that's worked for you and influenced you. I think asking you about some of your highlights because now you just went to Costa Rica like a month ago too.
Yeah.
You were there for almost 2 weeks and you had this whole other experience. So there'd be stuff to ask there. And then I think also
wait. Well, maybe I should ask a little bit about Costa Rica right now.
Yeah, do it.
What was your like favorite find while you were down there this last trip?
Oh man, we were pretty fortunate that we got to see a black-headed bushmaster. But that was more like a guided tour. Yeah, it was amazing. And our guide was kind of messing with us. He's like, the snake's around here in this area. He knew where it was the whole time. He was looking right at it. And then like finally after like 5-10-ish minutes, he's like, it's right there. And my mind was just blown. And that was just super special to see that. It's a tie between that and we saw an eyelashed viper. My friend who's only been out of the country once that got me into herping, he messaged me after the first time I went. He went down with me and he asked if there were eyelash vipers in the area, and I asked the guide using my poor Spanish because I don't know very much, and he was like, yeah, they're here, but they're really rare. And then 5 minutes later he found one. And it was just super special, kind of going full circle with someone that I met over Instagram. We went to the same school but didn't know each other.
Wow.
And we totally changed each other's lives. I don't think I would
really
be
cool.
Here today without him. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Both amazing finds too. I mean, especially the Bushmaster. That's like, there are a lot of people that have gone down to Costa Rica many times and spent a lot of time trying to find that species. So that's pretty amazing. You got to see one.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience for sure.
Was it a big specimen or was it a smaller one? Do you know how big it was?
The guide said it was like over 2 meters. Because we couldn't.
Okay.
We weren't allowed to handle it.
Not to touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really cool. The guide, he was showing me pictures of the one that he's seen in like other areas, that same snake, and pictures of his kids kind of like holding corals, like tailing them and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, that's a little crazy. He's like, yeah, I know it's venomous, but I told them not to do that. But they just love snakes too, so it's kind of cool to see that and stay in touch with them too. Yeah, people in Costa Rica are great. It was a truly an amazing experience, and just about every other person we talked to got bit by a fertile ants, but we only saw one the entire trip, which was kind of a shocker. But I'm sure I'll be going back in the future.
I want to get down there more. I've been twice, and both times it's just been like just amazing.
The whole time he was down there, he was like sending me Instagram messages like, look at this weird cat-eyed snake we found last night.
I was sending him all the lizard photos for IDs. I'm like, I have no idea what this is, but it's a lizard, and I took a photo of it.
Yeah. I think I got one of those photos too. Phil then sent it to me and was like, do you know what this thing is?
I think it was the pug-nosed anole. That was really cool. That was a cool one.
That's a cool lizard. Yeah. That's one of my favorite of the anoles down there. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a couple of the like the really like the crown, basically the equivalent of like crown giants that they have, like the Dactyloidae. Dactyloa sauvagii, I think is the name of one of them, and they're way up high. They're so cool looking. But no one sees them because they're just so up in the canopy, and they never come down really. There's also a really amazing the southernmost species of Gyarinotus is down there. Gyarinotus, it's called Gyarinotus rhombifer. It's like the same genus as the Texas alligator lizards, and they're like apparently only like 5 specimens have been seen in like the last 50 years. Whoa. But there's an amazing video on YouTube of one of those specimens. I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
it's just like one of those things where it's like you would never think that it's down there, but I just like that would be an amazing thing to see.
Yeah,
sounds like a future trip.
Yes,
sick, dude. That's really cool. Really, really cool. Well, hot damn.
Well, yeah, Phil, you want to hit him with the closer?
Yeah. So the closing question that we ask every guest is why herpetoculture? And, you know, we try to say you could take that as broadly or specifically as you like why do you do it? Why do we do it as humans? What's it good for? What's it not good for? You know, whatever kind of, why herpetoculture? So what say you, young Brendan?
Oh man. I guess there's a couple ways I want to address that, but herpetoculture it's become my life in more ways than one. And I think just as people, not just people keeping or herpers and people that just appreciate herps, but I think that as a whole will kind of just create a better understanding for the misunderstood as people kind of get interested into it and expand that and share our unique hobby with other people. You know, like we talk when I was younger in elementary school, you know, it's talking about, you know, respect for other people. And I think this is a way of teaching people to respect just everything because they aren't respected in, you know, around the world. You know, so I think what we do by keeping and breeding and sharing what we do with herps is it's changing how we as people kind of think and interact with just the world around us. I think that's kind of my thoughts on why herpetoculture is just important and will be here long into the future. And I hope we continue to just expand on that and grow and do a little bit more. Not just focus on the keeping, but just educating kids. That's been something that's kind of like another kind of side passion, I guess, is my friends that are that have parents that are teachers. I go to their classrooms, like the elementary schoolers, and show them snakes and stuff like that. And I think people would be amazed to see now how many like little girls come up and they're just not afraid of snakes. You know, they're like, oh yeah, my dad has one or my cousin has one and I love snakes and stuff like that. I think it's doing stuff like that and giving back to influence more people to maybe not be herpetoculturists, but to appreciate herps in general is just a great way to kind of do it and see and just change the world in that way, in that regard.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Sick. Nice work. I like it, Brendan.
Thank you.
Promotion.
We all heard it, everybody. He's got leverage. It's been stated publicly. It's in the record. Brendan is getting a promotion.
That means a raise, right? No.
No, it's just a promotion. No. It's just a title. Yeah, it's just a title. You're now a senior lizard guy.
Yeah. Oh, man. Current maybe Euro poop scooper of the month.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's insane.
I mean, but think about it this way, man. You're unseating Phil, who has been unchallenged on that pinnacle of, you know, Euro poop scooper of the month for like 5 years running.
Yeah. That's true. I don't know, but also talking to Phil and seeing some of the people he's mentoring is it's kind of interesting to see the up and comers for Euromastics.
Yeah, that's true. There's some killers out there. Some real killers. Well, sick, man. Brendan, thank you for taking the time out of your Friday to come chat with us and have a good conversation. It was a good one, man. I really very, very, very impressed with so much of what you have going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Anytime. And Roy, it was nice to meet you. I was really bummed when I left when I heard you were coming to Colorado. I was like, oh man, I really wanted to meet Roy. I think I was going to Alaska at that point, but
yeah, we were like ships in the night. But I'm going to be back out, and like I said, if you're ever out this way, man, let me know and we'll go herping. I'm not like the best California field herper. I'm not going to be able to put you on to like a whole trip of Zonata, but I can find you some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, no, me neither. But hey, if you want to come out here and go look for anything.
Oh yeah,
I'm down.
Yeah, Phil didn't show me anything, man.
You were here
for 24 hours.
You should have taken you to like the Northeast, Southeast Colorado, and Western Slope to look for Cali Kings.
I'm there. I'm literally there for like 12 daylight hours.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, we had a great time. We actually did a lot with that time.
We did.
Yeah, next time, man.
Yeah,
Where can people find you on socials and stuff like that?
It's just my name, just Brendan Hettinger on Facebook and Instagram. I don't really I try to keep my collection just a little quiet and just posting more of the herps that I find, because I'm involved with a lot of different people doing different things, different rattlesnake projects, and I like to kind of stay in touch with those people, and I try to reach out to just breeders, and if anyone wants to talk about herping or some of the projects that I have, I'm always down to chat.
Awesome, man. We'll have you in the show notes, everything, links for everybody so they can find you easily. And
thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to the next time we do this, man.
Yeah, me too. This has been great. Really enjoy it.
You gonna hit the button, Roy?
I'll hit it.